guides us all. I saw upon the Mount Zion a great people whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with songs. And in the midst of them there was a young man of high stature, taller than all the rest. And upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. So I asked the angel and said, Sir, what are these? He answered and said unto me, These be they that have put off the mortal clothing, and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of Yahweh. Now are they crowned and receive palms. Then said I unto the angel, What young person is it that crowneth them, and giveth them palms in their hands? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of Yahweh, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. Then the angel said unto me, Go thy way, and tell my people what manner of things, and how great wonders of the Lord thy power thou hast seen.
Whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, him will I confess also before my Father which is in heaven.
Matthew chapter 26, verse 29. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine, which is made from grapes, as you know. And our Lord, he loves to drink, man. That's something that our Lord took pleasure in when he was here on this planet Earth. He's not going to do it anymore until he returns to do it with you. Showing just how much he loves his elect, man. He's not even going to drink until he does it again with you. I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. So what a moment that's going to be, man.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards young brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem Al Shah, pushing and get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem Al Shah. All right, a continuation, in the book of Acts, we made to the 27th chapter. And this is going into men of favor, and this is an example, as Paul, is shipwrecked in this chapter. But the Lord, using tragedy, to show his favor, all right, on his chosen, and may, us sincere believers, you few sincere sisters, maybe, may we, be blessed with favor coming into these times of tragedy, because that's when the Lord shows whom he is with during the time of tragedy. Okay, as we look at the scriptures say our forefathers of old, and we see how the Lord always made a way. There was always, singled out, all right, for a salvation, for a deliverance, okay, for a miracle, man. You see, and we're not going to make it out of the times we're coming into nothing short of a miracle. Okay, so let's go here to Acts 27:1. All right, I got it pulled up in the NLT. So you go to the book of Acts chapter 27 verse 1. It says, when the time came, we set sail for Italy. Now this is Paul, on his way to Rome to appear before Caesar. All right, to appear before Nero. Okay. He had been tried, in the lower courts. Okay, you had Jake, trying to push, for the death sentence. These certain governors, they was being swayed, politically by, those wicked niggas of the Sanhedrin, you know, and they was trying to scheme and plot, to get the Apostle Paul into their custody, so they can put Paul to death, which forced Paul to appeal to Caesar, all right, a higher court. Okay, so this is Paul being shipped, okay, to Rome to appear before Caesar. Now, when you this reader says, when the time came, we set sail for Italy. Paul and several other prisoners were placed in the custody of a Roman officer named Julius, a captain of the imperial regiment. It said Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was along with us. We left a ship whose home port was Adramyttium of the northwest coast of the province of Asia. It was scheduled to make several stops at ports along the coast of the province. The next day, when we docked at Zidon, Julius was very kind to Paul and let him go ashore to visit his friends so they could provide his needs, so they're, on the way to Rome, all right, on the way to Italy, and they're, making several stops on the way, and certain stops, Paul was able, to see some believers, you know. So the Lord is always, working the way, he always looking out for Paul to the people, who Paul will be under, as far as their custody. They will have favor to Paul. They will have favor towards Paul, and Paul was able to, write letters. He was able to see, believers, in the midst of him being, in prison and being held. It says, putting it out to sea from there, we encountered strong headwinds that made it difficult to keep the ship on course. So we sailed north of Cyprus between the island and the mainland. Keeping on the open sea, we passed along the coast of Cilicia and Pamphylia, landing at Myra in the province of Lycia. There, the commanding officer found an Egyptian ship from Alexander that was bound for Italy and put us on board. We had several days of slow sailing, and after great difficulty, we finally neared Cnidus, but the wind was against us. So we sailed across to Crete, and in Crete, I believe that's where Titus, was the head of the church of Crete. You get the book of Titus, it talks about the Cretians. Okay, it was pretty rough. It was pretty, rough in Crete. You see, and it says, and along the sheltered coast of the land of the island, past the Cape of Salmon, we struggled along the coast with great difficulty and finally arrived at Fair Havens near the town of Lasea. We had lost a lot of time. The weather was becoming dangerous for sea travel because it was so late in the fall. And Paul spoke to the ship's officers about it. Men, he said, I believe there is trouble ahead if we go on. Shipwreck, loss of cargo, and danger to our lives as well. But the officer in charge of the prisoners listened more to the ship captains, all right, and the owner than to Paul. So Paul is, giving them the heads up, like, look, the way this weather looking, and the way we're headed, this could get bad, So Paul is giving them, sound advice, okay, but the spirit was on them to ignore it. They looking at Paul like, look, you just, all right, a prisoner, okay? You're someone awaiting trial. Who are you? Okay. And it says, and since Fair Havens was as exposed was an exposed harbor, a poor place to spend the winter. Most of the crew wanted to go on to Phoenix, farther up the coast of Crete, and spend the winter there. Phoenix was a good harbor with only a southwest and northwest exposure. It says, so they went on. They ignored Paul and they went on, to try to get to the next port, so they can winter, somewhere they can winter, and then head for Rome. Okay, in the spring, it says when a light wind began blowing from the south, the sailors thought they could make it, so they pulled up the anchor and sailed close to the shore of Crete. But the weather changed abruptly, and a wind of typhoon Skrent, called a northeaster, all right, burst across the island and blew us out to sea. The sailors couldn't turn the ship into the wind, so they gave up and let it run before the gale. It says we sailed along the sheltered side of a small island named Kadai, where with great difficulty we hoisted abroad the lifeboat being towed behind us. Then the sailors bound ropes around the hull of the ships to strengthen it. They were afraid of being driven across to the sandbars of Syrtis off the African coast, so they lowered the sea anchor to slow the ship and were driven before the wind. Okay, so they out there in the sea catching hell. You can like this to what? Tribulation. You see, you can like this into tribulation. So they out there, the winds just taking them where you know, they couldn't control it. They couldn't steer the ship. They had to just turn it loose. And the wind was driving it where it wanted. Okay, and we know we're coming into a time of tribulation, man. What they call it, shit gonna hit the fan. Things gonna go haywire. Okay, and it's gonna be all in the hands of Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, the only thing we can do in the times of coming up is have faith in the midst of the storm. And pray that the Lord have favor and mercy in the midst of this, man. Because without miracles from on high, ain't no making it through the times we're coming into. Okay, there's no way you can physically, carnally prep. Okay, the only prep is to serve the Lord right now. Be sincere right now. Believe right now. Trust right now. Tapping in right now. This is the only thing we can do to prep. To serve the Lord with fear and trembling right now. And may the Lord have mercy on us in these times. Okay, it said the next day, as gale force winds continued to batter the ship, the crew began throwing the cargo overboard. Okay, so it got to the point, like Apostle Paul said, it's going to be a loss of cargo. And these are all the things that he was telling them. Okay, and they came to pass just as we, tell our people about the time of tribulation, the time of judgment, Jacob's trouble. Okay, we're telling our people that it's when the Lord, all right, finna judge, man. You're telling our people, look, you finna take losses. You trust in this world, you ignore the prophet, you finna take losses, man. It said the following day, they even took some of the ship's gear and threw it overboard. The terrible storm raged for many days, blotting out the sun and stars until at last all hope was gone. Okay, blotting out the sun and the stars until at last all hope was gone. It was gloomy. Okay, which changed the whole atmosphere, man. And these are the type of days, that's coming. Okay, we're coming to some gloomy, dark, destructive times. Okay, and the Lord is finna express his anger in the earth, man. You see, and people just gonna have to deal. Okay, And the only relief is going to be the Lord's mercy upon, his people, upon his elect, beginning, with his men of favor. It said no one had eaten for a long time. Finally, Paul called the crew together and said, "Men, you should have listened to me in the first place and not left Crete. You would have avoided all this damage and loss." Okay? But they didn't understand, they looking at Paul just another prisoner. They didn't know that the Lord was dealing. Okay? Just like now, when you go here, let's get this. Ezekiel 33. In Ezekiel 33 and 31, it says, "So my people come pretending to be sincere," and this is for Jake, they're not serious about, this truth, this ministry, man. They're not serious about the message, about the warning. It's a lot of Jake that'll shalom you to death, okay? But they're not serious about the warning, They're not changing up, okay? They're not repentant, okay? You're not conforming to, the men not conforming to Yahweh Shai, the women not humbling down, under men. Okay? There's no sincerity. Okay? It says, "So my people come pretending to be sincere and sit before you. They listen to your words, but they have no intention on doing what you say." Okay? And the Apostle Paul was telling them, like, "Look, man, it's gonna get bad. Like, we keep going, it's gonna get bad." And this is what we tell Jake, like, you keep going the way you going, it's gonna be bad, it's gonna be terrible. Okay? It says their mouths are full of lustful words, and their hearts seek only after money or their own interests. Okay? A lot of our people, they're still motivated by their own interests, not the fear of the Lord. Okay, not faith in prophecy, man. Because as we have faith in the promises, man, we have faith that the Lord finna judge as well. Okay? And we understand we need mercy, man. Okay? Because there's no prepping for all the things that's finna happen at the same time. Okay? Like this ship, they had no control. Nothing they could do. I don't care how experienced of a sailor they were, how many years they've been out to sea, the storms they done been through. There was nothing they could do in that moment. Okay? We coming into the time where the Lord gonna set it up to where, nobody's gonna be able to deal with the moment. Okay, it's gonna be too much, it's gonna be overwhelming. And the only way to combat that is the favor of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. It said you are very entertaining to them, like someone who sings love songs with a beautiful voice and play fine music on the instrument. They hear what you say, but they don't act on it. Okay? Because this truth is about action. It's about repenting for real. It's about this becoming a lifestyle. Our faith has become a lifestyle. Okay? Of obedience, man, patience and discipline. So our people, it's a lot of people that pretend. Okay, well, you got these superficial Israelites. Okay, but they really not listening. They're really not obeying. Okay, verse 33. But when all these terrible things happen to them, as they certainly will, said, then they will know a prophet has been among them. Okay, and the people on the ship didn't know that it was a prophet, a man favored by Yahweh, by Shema Shai was among them. They didn't get that concept. Okay, they didn't fully understand it. Okay, to them, Paul was just another prisoner because I think it was like 276 men on the ship. So to them, Apostle Paul was just another prisoner. Okay, but the Lord is still going to have mercy because eventually they are going to listen. Okay, and be saved. Okay, so reading on Acts 27-21 says, no one had eaten for a long time. Finally, Paul called the crew together and said, men, you should have listened to me in the first place and not left Crete. You would have avoided all this damage and loss. But take good courage. None of you will lose your lives, even though the ship would go down. For last night, an angel of the Most High, to whom I belong, all right, so he's confessing, he's confessing his power, his faith, like an angel of the power, okay, angel of Yahweh, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood beside me. And he said, don't be afraid, Paul, for you will surely stand trial before Caesar. What's more, the Most High in his goodness has granted safety to everyone sailing with you. Okay? And Paul's favor is spilled over. All right. And it covered those men that was on that ship with him. Because Paul had to go to Caesar. Okay? He had to appeal to Caesar. That's what the Lord wanted. That's why Apostle Paul had to appeal to Caesar. Okay? Because Festus and King Agrippa was going to turn Paul loose. After he gave his testimony to King Agrippa, okay, they was going to turn him loose. Okay? But he had already appealed to Caesar, so it was already en route. So he had to go to Caesar because that's what the Lord wanted. You see? And that's the thing too. All we can do is submit to the will of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. It's all about what the Lord wants, man. And the Lord got his way, and he's going to deliver in these times, man. It might not be the ideal way we thought, but it's the way the Lord, it's the way the Lord want to go. Okay, this is his show. You see? But as you can see, the Lord is guaranteeing, Paul gonna be good. And not only Paul, but those, okay, that are with Paul on this trip. It says, so take courage, for I believe the Most High, it will be just as he said. Okay. It says, but we will be shipwrecked on the island. It says about midnight on the 14th night of the storm, as we were being driven across the Sea of Adria, the sailors sensed land was near. They dropped a weight line and found that the water was 120 foot deep. But a little later, they measured again and found it was 90 feet deep. At this rate, they were afraid we would soon be driven against the rocks along the shore. So they threw out 4 anchors from the back of the ship and prayed for daylight. Then the sailors tried to abandon the ship. They lowered the lifeboat as though they were going to put out, that they were going to put out anchors from the front of the ship. So, boy, from the dip. Okay, they were from the abandoned ship. You see, they were getting ready to abandon the ship. All right. These guys, man. So if they like, look, we finna be shipwrecked. They like, damn, we finna, the way we going, because the water getting more shallow, so it was coming up on land. And remember, they had no control. So like they on a crash course with the land. You see? So it said, but Paul said to the commanding officers and soldiers, you will die unless the sailors stay aboard. So the sailors cut the rope to the lifeboat and let it drift away. So now they're beginning to to obey and to listen to the Apostle Paul. Now they're beginning to obey and listen. Okay, and the Lord made moves to show that, look, he's dealing with the Apostle Paul, man. He vindicated that he was dealing with the Apostle Paul. Like the Lord is going to vindicate his men in these times, man. He's going to vindicate that he's been dealing, with his men the whole time, the sincere men, the brothers whom the Lord raised up, to teach the word in truth and sincerity. He's going to vindicate those men. It's going to be known, what Scripture say, then shall be known who are my chosen, because the Lord going to be dealing. Okay? He said you're going to know who is chosen in the midst of the affliction. Okay? Second Esdras 16. Because we'll probably get that. Let's get this word real quick. So let's go here. Get this word vindicate. So now they're listening, to the Apostle Paul. Okay, look at the word vindicate. All right, so you get this word vindicate. It said vindicate means to clear someone of suspicion, blame, or doubt, or to prove that a person or action was right, justified, or reasonable. Okay? So vindicate means to clear someone of suspicion, blame, or doubt, or to prove that a person or action was right, justified, or reasonable, man. And the Lord's going to do that for his prophets. Okay, that's why in the midst of tribulation, it said then it's going to be known who is chosen first. The men that have been saying this the whole time, because things are going to be happening according to what the Lord had his man speaking the whole time. So while these things are happening and the Lord is having favor on those men in the midst of these calamities, it's going to be known, all right, who's it chosen. Okay, the Lord going to vindicate his men in the midst of this chaos, man, in the midst of this tribulation and judgment. Okay, the Lord's men are going to be vindicated. That's why all we have to do is be patient and teach his word, man. Okay, we don't have to chase, popularity and clout, and do gimmicks and be on this podcast and that podcast. We have to do these things, man. Just keep teaching the truth. Just keep preaching the simplicity that's in Yahweh, man. Just keep teaching the truth day in and day out. Keep prophesying. Don't worry about, being, looked at as the outcast. Okay, insignificant. Okay, because as a man, of course, you want to be appreciated, but it ain't about us being appreciated right now. Okay, it's about the Lord getting the glory. And see, it's going to be known that the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, through his son is doing this. Yahweh Shah. Okay? So are we teaching their name so they get the glory due? Okay? When these things happen. Okay? Because we're telling the world that these things are going to happen according to the will of Yahweh Bashim Al Shah. Okay? So when you go to it's like 2nd Esdras 16 and 70, it said, for they shall be in every place and in the next city a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord, man. And this is Jacob's trouble. Because the devil, he's going to be out for blood for Jake. And he's for sure want to target the prophets, man. Okay, the believers. You see? But also Jake in general, man, it's going to be a time of Jacob's trouble. Okay, but there's going to be a different outcome between 2/3 and the elect. Okay, it said, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. Okay, so the Lord is going to vindicate, his men in these times. He's going to vindicate the church, the believers. Okay, because the things are going to be happening, that the prophets have been saying for decades. Okay, and the Lord's going to be having mercy and favor in the midst of that calamity, man. Okay, so it's going to be without a doubt these men were telling the truth the whole time. And that's why it's all about the end game, man. Okay, damn how it look right now. We know how it turned out. Okay, verse 74 says, hear, O ye my beloved, said the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. And we got to trust in that deliverance. A lot of people are going to take the sea hill because it's going to be presented as a deliverance. The MOTB going to present it as a deliverance from the chaos, a deliverance from the storm. Okay, that's going to be Esau version, him trying to calm the storm. It says, be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your God. Okay, And you see Apostle Paul, he didn't have no doubt. He was like, look, y'all good. I had the dream confirmed. I got to get the season, you know? So just based out there alone, y'all good. And then the angel said, y'all going to be good. So I got a message, from the angel of the Lord said, it's a guarantee I get the season. Okay. And y'all going to be good as well. So Paul, he had all confidence. He like, y'all should have listened, but it is what it is. We're here now. Look, we're going to be good. We're going to live. Even this ship here is going to be shipwrecked, but we're going to live. We're going to make it this season. He didn't tell them how they was going to make it. Okay, but he knew, look, we good. We're going to make it. Just like, hey, it got to be someone, it got to be believers alive to be delivered. Okay, so if we of that number, then, hey, we're going to make it. We're going to make it through whatever it is. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back here. Acts 27:33 said, just as day was drawing, with dawning, Paul urged everyone to eat. You have been so weary that you haven't touched food for 2 weeks. So they fasted for 14 days. Dang. It said, please eat something now for your own good, for not a hair on your heads will perish. So Paul, he got the guarantee, so he's able to give a guarantee. You see? So based off, his guarantee he got from Yahweh Bashim Al-Shah, he was able to give a guarantee. Like we can guarantee that the Lord going to be with his elect during this time. Their provisions are already made, okay, for the hopeful elect coming into these times, because the Lord guaranteed. Okay, the Lord even guaranteed that, there was not going to be a hair, all right, on our head to perish for some. All right, for a lot of us, man. Okay, there's going to be martyrs. We put that, we teach that as well, because that's a guarantee. There's going to be believers, all right, that's going to have to take that ultimate sacrifice, man. That's a part of it. So we give the guarantees based on what the scriptures say, but also those that are martyrs are guaranteed to be resurrected. No chariots first. Those who sleep shall rise first. Okay, so we can give guarantees based on, all right, the guarantees we receive from the scriptures, man. Okay, verse 36 said, then everyone was encouraged and began to eat. All 276 of us, all right, who were on board, so it was close to 300 men, 276. But you see what they're doing? They're listening. You see, they're becoming obedient. It takes an obedience in order to receive mercy. There has to be obedience somewhere. You got to start listening somewhere. So certain people, hey, it's gonna take the Lord really shaking shit up, okay, and they're gonna start obeying and listening. But you gotta start listening somewhere. Okay, certain brothers, they got women that really ain't down with the truth like that. When they cool. All right, it's gonna come to a time they're gonna have to listen. They're gonna have to be fully submitted to that man. Okay, to receive, all right, their favor. You're gonna have to be a humbling down. Okay, even going to, like I say, Isaiah 4:1, it's gonna have to be a humbling down to receive the benefits of Isaiah 4:1 for the woman. Okay, it says, then everyone was encouraged and began to eat. All 276 of us who were on board. After eating, the crew lightened the ship further by throwing the cargo, all right, of wheat overboard. When morning dawned, they didn't recognize the coastline, but they saw a bay with a beach and wondered if they could get to shore by running the ship aground. So they cut off the anchors and left them in the sea. Then they lowered the rudders raised the foresail and headed towards the shore. It says, but they hit a shawl and ran the ship aground too soon. The bow of the ship struck fast, while the stern was repeatedly smashed by the force of the waves and began to break apart. So it was pretty much a crash in the sea. you know. So that went bad. That idea went bad. Okay. But it still was, they were still within the favor of the Lord. The Lord still showing that even, okay, in the turmoil, okay, He gonna make good on His word. It said the soldiers wanted to kill the prisoners to make sure they didn't swim ashore and escape. But the commanding officers wanted to spare Paul. You see, favor. Okay, it's the Lord's favor in this situation, man. The Lord is overseeing this, and we gotta trust, man, that the Lord is going to be overseeing us during Jacob's trouble. Okay, it said, but the commanding officer wanted to spare Paul, so he didn't let them carry out their plan. Then he ordered all who could swim to jump overboard first and make for land. Okay, so the commanding officer, all right, the guy with the authority, said, we're gonna be in situations where, it's gonna be certain people in authority, man. The Lord gonna have favor. Through certain people. There's certain people set up in certain positions just to have favor on the elect going into these times, man. Okay, provisions are already made. The Lord is going to oversee, okay, His elect through Jacob's trouble. It's already mapped out. We just have to trust. Paul had all trust. Okay, it said the others held on to planks or debris from the broken ship. So everyone, you see that? So everyone escaped safely to the shore. They survived. Okay, but they came to the point where they had to start listening. Okay, they had to submit. And you go into, let's go here, because even you go into the book of Genesis, as the Lord getting ready to flood the earth. Okay, because of how bad it had got. All right, Genesis 6 and 7 says, and the Lord said, I will wipe the human race I have created from the face of the earth. Yes, I will destroy every living thing, all the people, the large animals, the small animals, the scurry. All right, they scurry along the ground, and even the birds in the sky. I am sorry I ever made them. But Noah found favor with the Lord. You see, just like Paul, he had favor. Okay, but Noah found favor with the Lord. Okay, and Noah goes into what? Nawak, which is comfort. Okay, and we're comforted by our faith in Yahweh Shema Shai, man. We're comforted by the scriptures which promise deliverance, man. Which promise provisions in tribulation, power in tribulation, man. It said, this is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on the earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with the Most High. So the Lord was dealing with Noah, just as He was dealing with Paul, and just as He's dealing with His men in this time, man. We gotta believe that. And it comes with a responsibility. Okay, because of what Noah was in close fellowship means he was obedient, he was patient, he was faithful. Okay, it said Noah was the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the Most High saw that the earth had become corrupt and filled with violence. The Most High observed all this corruption in the world, for everyone on earth was corrupt. So the Most High said to Noah, I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them out alone. Okay. Yes, I will wipe them all out along with the earth. So he was determined, all right, to judge the whole earth, man. You see, and this is the power that Jake want to play with. You see, Jake can look at this story and make it seem like the Most High is the villain. That's the thing with Jake now. The Most High is just this tyrannical villain. And that narrative comes from Esau and Satanism, man. Okay, the Lord was judging righteousness in the earth, man. He was righteously judging the earth. Okay, everybody was out of pocket, man. Just like now. All right. A lot of you people are out of pocket, man. And the Lord finna bring a global judgment, especially here in America, man. Okay, where it's going to be complete annihilation. All right, it says build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar inside and out. Then construct decks and sails. All right, throughout its interior. So he's giving what specific instructions. Make the boat 450 feet long, 70 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Leave 18 inch, leave an 18-inch opening below the roof, all the way around the boat. Put the door on the side and build 3 decks into the boat, lower, middle, and upper. Okay, so he's giving specific instructions, okay, on how to build this boat. You see? And what does Noah do? He's obedient to those instructions. It said, look, I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on earth will die. Everything on earth will die. It says, but I will confirm my covenant with you. So into the boat, you and your wife, your sons, and their wives. Okay. Yeah. So it says, I'm gonna read verse 17 again. It said, look, I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on earth will die, but I will confirm my covenant with you. So into the boat, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Okay. And it had got to a point to where, because if they would, as Noah was building the boat, they was on the outside, so they had to obey when it was time for them to go on the boat. You see, they had to obey. You see, they had to listen. It was a time where they had to listen. Noah, okay, was he was preaching, just like we're preaching, we're warning, and we're building, okay, a spiritual art, okay. But he got to the point to where they had to make a decision, okay. Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah, Noah's wife, their wives, they had to get on the boat. They had to be obedient and get on the boat. Okay, so they had to listen somewhere to receive favor. They had to be obedient somewhere and receive favor. Now let's go into an account where somebody didn't listen. Okay, and they missed out on the favor. Why scripture say what? Remember Lot's wife. It says, now we know that the angels came down to investigate Sodom and Gomorrah, and once they seen, all right, that it was as wicked as was being reported, okay, the Lord had marked their place for destruction, just like America is marked for destruction. This place is marked. Okay, you can try to argue back and forth and try to, make it seem that the Most High is awful. Okay. It says Genesis 19:12. Meanwhile, the angels questioned Lot, do you have any other relatives here in the city? They asked, get them out of this place. Your son-in-laws, sons, daughters, or anyone else. So the angels what? Giving orders, instruction. And these are divine orders. Because remember, the angel told Paul that what he was going to make it. You're going to make it. You're going to be good. And the people with you, y'all going to be good. You got to go to Caesar. So the angel come through with that divine instruction, man. Because we're going to be guided. The scripture say we're going to be guided in that time. And we have to understand we're going to be being instructed. The Lord going to be dealing. We're going to be being instructed in these times, man, that we're coming into. Okay? The Lord's going to have favor. And and we can see angels, man, telling us do this, do that. We can have heavy dreams and visions and getting instructions, man. Okay, and that's divine guidance on another level, because as the tribulation increase, the Lord, the way that He deals, that's going to increase too. Because the Lord speaks to us now all the time. The Spirit is always speaking and guiding us every day. The Spirit is guiding us throughout each and every day. And as we become more spiritual inclined, and we become more keen, more skillful, all right, more alert in the Spirit, we can peep, the Spirit telling us how to move, but it's going to be on a more enhanced version in these times, man. Okay, the Lord going to turn it up. It said, for we're about to destroy this city completely. The outcry against this place is so great, it has reached the Lord, and he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot rushed out to tell his daughters, all right, it says fiance, but his son-in-laws, okay, quick, get out of the city. The Lord is about to destroy it. But the young men thought he was joking. They were playing. You see, you gonna have those that listen and those that don't. So he's telling them, that this place is going to be destroyed. Lot is telling his son-in-laws, okay, like, look, this place is going to be destroyed, but they took it light. They thought he was joking, like a lot of niggas are doing, a lot of our people. Okay, we're telling them this place is going to be destroyed. Jake want to argue about why did the Most High flood the earth, if it was just Adam and Eve, and what, all these dumbass questions that Jake coming up with these days. Okay, why did the Lord create Satan? See, that's what niggas is on. We're telling you America finna be destroyed, and you trying to figure out why the Most High created Satan. Okay, it says at dawn the next morning the angels became insistent. Hurry, they said to Lot, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here. Get out right now, or you will be swept away in the destruction of the city. Okay, so the angels let them know, look, hey, we finna wreck. Okay, you gotta leave now. All right, damn them niggas, man. They don't want to listen. Keep it moving, and that's the spirit we in. Okay, we not here to wrestle with you niggas, man, to get it. Nah, man, we telling you what it is according to the scriptures, man. Okay, if you niggas want to argue, you gonna argue with your damn self, and we gonna keep it moving, man. Okay, we know that the spirit is on us to where we know what it is, man. It said when Lot still hesitated, the angel seized his hands and the hands of his wife and 2 daughters and rushed them to safety outside the city, for the Lord was merciful. When they were safely out of the city, one of the angels ordered, run for your lives and don't look back. More instruction, more order. And don't look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains or you will be swept away. Oh no, my Lord, Lot begged. You have been so gracious to me and saved my life, and you have shown such great kindness, but I cannot go to the mountains. Disaster will catch up to me there, and I will die soon. See, there's a small village nearby. Please let me go there instead. Don't you see how small it is? Then my life will be saved. All right, the angel said, I will grant you your request. I will not destroy the little village. So you see the Lot, the favor that Lot had. He made a request, and that request was granted. But at the end of the day, he had to escape. He had to flee and not look back. Okay, and not looking back was symbolic of not, being attached to Sodom and Gomorrah, man. It was wicked, man. Okay, it was bigger than looking back, because like I said, Jake is having all these dumb arguments. He killed Lot's wife for looking back, but Satan get to live. This is the arguments that niggas. This is the question that niggas are posing 2026. All this prophecy jumping off the page, and this what a nigga want to talk about, man. Okay, it said, but Harry escaped to it, for I can do nothing until you arrive there. Yeah, so showing you the favor that the Lord had on Lot. The angel was giving the order, look, don't destroy it until Lot is out of there. It was about Lot, man. It said this explains why the village was known as Zar, which means little place. Lot reached the village just as the sun was rising over the horizon. Then the Lord rained down fire, brimstone, and sulfur from the sky on Sodom and Gomorrah. He utterly destroyed them along with the other cities and villages of the plain, wiping out all the people in every bit, wiping out all the people in every bit of vegetation. But Lot's wife looked back as she was following behind him, and she turned to a pillar of salt, man. She didn't listen. Okay? She didn't listen, man. She still was attached to Sodom. She was offended at the Lord judging Sodom. Okay? And she looked back. Okay? So you got those that obey and receive favor based on, the men of favor that they was around. And then you got the account of someone not obeying, looking back and being offended at the Lord's judgment and got destroyed. Okay? You see? Got vaporized, man. Hard-headed ass, man. You see? So let's go here, because that's why even Yahushua, when he prayed for the disciples, this is a book of St. John 17 and 20 says, I am praying. St. John 17:20, Yahushua speaking. It says, I am praying not only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. Okay? I am not only praying for these disciples, but also all who will ever believe in me through their message, man. Okay? So listening to these particular men, okay, that the Lord has favor on, okay, the Lord has found, grace, okay, has granted his grace upon these men. Listening to these men, okay, is leading to salvation, man. Okay? Go on here. That's why Apostle Paul told Timothy, to be serious about the ministry, because to be, take heed to himself. All right. It says 1 Timothy 4:14, 1:4. It said, do not neglect the spiritual gift you received through prophecy spoken over you when the elders of the church laid their hands on you. Give your complete attention to these matters. Throw yourself into your task so that everyone will see your progress. Keep a close watch on how you live and on your teaching. Make sure the doctrine on point, making sure we on point in our day-to-day. This is serious business, man. It says, stay true to what is right for the sake of your own salvation and the salvation of those who hear you. Okay? And the salvation of those that hear you, man. Okay? So we all got to obey someone. Okay? And as things get hectic, okay, obedience is still going to be required, man. And there's men that the Lord has strategically set up, as he's getting ready to judge the earth. Okay? Which is going to be paths to salvation, man. Those men are set up as paths to salvation, man. There's a covering. Okay, the scripture say how men is going to be what, like a covering. Okay, now you go here to let's get this in the book of Isaiah 13 and 11. Matter of fact, let me get this Isaiah 32 and we'll end with Isaiah 13 and 11. All right, Isaiah 13. And I started 1. It's beautiful how verse 1 rolled to verse 2. It said, Isaiah 32 and 1 said, behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and a prince shall rule in judgment. Okay, and that's Yahushua. Okay, and the princes is going to be what? Those men, those elect men of Yahushua, beginning with the first fruits. It says, behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and a prince shall rule in judgment. A man shall be as in hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, like a storm, as rivers of a water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. Okay, so there's particular men of favor. All right, there's that the Lord has strategically placed all throughout the earth, man. In the bulk being over here in America, which is going to be the worst. So in the midst of Jacob's trouble and tribulation, okay, these men are going to be like a hiding place from the wind, from the storms, the chaos. Okay, these men are going to be like a relief, a shadow, in a hot place, in a weary land. Okay, it's finna heat up. Okay, so the Lord is going to set his men up to be a covering. Okay, for those that's going to obey. So you got to obey to the end. You got to believe and obey to the end. So let's get that in Isaiah 13. This Isaiah 13:11 says, I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. And this is going to be the Lord judging. You see, that's when the Lord going to open up in judgment, man. Okay? And this is a very proud society, man. All these proud looks, okay? All these proud looks in the earth, man. Okay, this arrogancy, this completely out of pocket in the earth, from the elites on down to these straight niggas walking around, the nigga woman. Okay, you proud, entitled, Edomites, you everyday Edomites. Okay, everybody just out of bounds, man. Okay, and it says, verse 12. So in the midst of that, I will make a man, the men of favor, the men of Yahushua. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. And that's why, every day that we serve the Lord in fear and trembling is the best investment we can make, brothers. Okay? Damn trying to, increase our own value with gimmicks and trying to be seen and trying to be popular and trying to make ourselves, nah, man. Because when the Lord make us valuable, it's going to be on a different level. It's going to hit totally different than some comments and some praise, on the comment board. It's going to hit way different, So that's the point. Just want to get into that. Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutation, hopefully, shalom.